I'm now excited to be joined by a very special guest. It is Adam Spencer. Adam, I appreciate you not blinding me with a highlighter shirt like the one that you wore the other day, front row, San Francisco. Did you rock the highlighter sweatshirt? My bad. Did you rock that so that you could identify yourself at some point during one shining moment?
I didn't even know I was going to be sitting courtside for that game because for the for the Sweet 16 games, I was actually up in the auxiliary media section in the upper deck. So I just figured this is a comfy sweatshirt, and I'm just gonna wear this. And but now, now I'm gonna be looking for myself during one shining moment, see if I have. I mean, I fit the definition, right? I was shining on Saturday night, so that's for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, I was like, "Who's that idiot in the highlighter?" Like, "Oh no, that's Adam. That's Adam." No, I recognized it pretty early on. I was like, "Oh dang, Adam got." When you get that front row seat for those games, it just kind of like changes your perspective of that. Like that to be able to see it that close, and you of course got what was not really that eventful of an Elite Eight matchup, and then of course everybody was talking about what Arkansas did against Gonzaga, which was an awesome game. So I want to start with that. I know it's a familiar end for Arkansas with the Elite Eight loss, maybe to a team that's going to win the national championship. That Gonzaga game plan that Eric Musselman had was awesome. I mean, they attacked Nebhard. They got Chet in foul trouble. I don't think that we should lose sight of what Arkansas did to get that win, because as great as this 2-year run was, 4 of the 5 NCAA tournament victories that Arkansas had to that point came against double-digit seeds. The one that didn't succeed, Texas Tech. But beating Gonzaga the way that they did, to me, said a lot about Eric Musselman and kind of moved him up into an even higher echelon as a rising coach in this sport. And I'm guessing it did for you as well.
Yeah, I mean, he's absolutely like he set the bar for that program now. Like now Elite Eights are the expectation instead of the exception. And that's where Arkansas should be. This is a proud program. Nolan Richardson got him to the top. He had him in the Final Four in '95. He won it all in '94. So Arkansas can be and should be a consistent title contender. And Musselman has him there. And momentum is trending in the right direction in Fayetteville. He's got an elite recruiting class coming in. He's probably going to have Jalen Williams back. I would guess that Jalen would declare for the draft and then keep his eligibility and just see what the NBA is saying about him. And JD Notae, he's probably going. He still has one more year, I believe, if he wants it. But I would say his draft stock's not going to get any higher than it is right now. So I would potentially expect JD to leave. But then they've got one of the top recruiting classes in the nation coming in. They got Nick Smith coming in. He's going to be an instant impact player. So Elite Eight is going to be the bar again next year. And that's just where Musselman has this program. And he's done a great job in a short amount of time.
Feels really sustainable. All the points that you just brought up there. And I lost sight of this as well this year, because sometimes you see the familiar faces and it's like, oh, Jalen Williams is out there. We knew that Notae was playing a big role for this team last year as well. But, it's very easy to forget. Lost 3 of their top 4 scorers. And to get back to an Elite Eight, one of 2 programs in the country to do that, Houston being the other, it's just not a given that you're able to have that kind of success with very different teams. And now I feel like, as you said, this should be the floor for Arkansas. If there's one thing that can prevent that from happening, one thing that could prevent Arkansas from being at this spot, this is the yearly expectation that could potentially be a snag. What do you think that is?
The freshmen not panning out. We saw this sort of with Cal and even with Coach K a little bit. John Calipari used to just get the most talented freshman that he could get and then just roll the ball out there and say, "Go play, fellas," and that worked. That doesn't work anymore. That Coach K's found that out. Like this year, Duke has. Wendell Moore is a junior. Mark Williams and Jeremy Roach are sophomores. So they don't rely entirely on freshmen. Kentucky doesn't rely entirely on freshmen anymore. So Eric Musselman, the key to this team was, yes, JD Notae was back to lead the team. Jalen Williams stepped into the Justin Smith role. But the key to this team was Stanley Amude and Audi's Tony. Audi's Tony was the one that was the one that got in Nimhard's back pocket and just didn't let him get any head of steam up the court and just made his life miserable for 40 minutes on Thursday night. So players like that, the transfers that you get, and just not necessarily like the big name guys, but like guys that fit your system. And Eric Musselman found guys that fit his system. And that's what he needs to continue to do, even as his national profile rises and he's going to get more 5-star freshmen. You have to take the right 5-star freshmen and you have to pull the right guys out of the portal. You can't just go get the biggest names and hope that they're going to gel with your system. But I think Musselman's smart enough to know that. And I think that he's going to do a great job moving forward with the Hogs.
Yeah, it's an interesting model because it's a little bit of it's kind of a hybrid of both, of going out and getting a guy from South Dakota, getting a guy from Jacksonville University. Like, this isn't necessarily the way that we saw it done 10 years ago, but at the same time, it's almost like his ability to evaluate talent is what could potentially separate him, and seeing these fits within his program. And again, like you said, not everybody has been able to kind of work out there, but at the same time, it does kind of feel like he has sort of cracked the code of how to be this modern coach, how to play a style that your players actually buy into. You know, at the same time, you look at all these different things and you heap the praise on Arkansas. I do wonder a little bit at least, if that upside, that national championship upside, is there after seeing what it looked like with Baylor, after seeing up close what it looked like with Duke. Arkansas's loss meant the SEC will be without a men's national title since 2012. That Kentucky team was the last one to do it. Haven't had an SEC team in the title game since 2014 Kentucky, of course, undefeated team, end up losing to Wisconsin. Who is the most likely team to end that drought? Or maybe the better way to phrase that question is, like, Arkansas or the field to end that drought, who would you take?
Right now it's Arkansas. I think that, they have the momentum. When you get an Elite Eight, like, and then you get another one the next year, like, players see that. They know that that's a level of success that is attainable. They see the kind of guys that go to Arkansas and become better players. And that's an exciting thing to do. But I do think it's close. Like, there's, Kentucky could win it all again real quick. They're going to get another talented team in there next year. That's just the way Kentucky is. Tennessee, Rick Barnes is good at accruing talent. A team like Auburn. I think Auburn, Bruce Pearl is a heck of a recruiter. He's a heck of a transfer portal. He's drawn some big names from the transfer portal in recent years too. So, don't count out Auburn. Don't count out even Alabama. I think Nate Oates is going to learn a lot from this year, and I think he's going to bounce back. And I am on the record as saying I think Todd Golden is going to hang a Final Four banner at Florida within the next 4 years. So there's a chance the Gators could do it too. There's a lot of good basketball in the SEC right now. Texas A&M is 2 wins away from an NIT title. And if you win the NIT, that's momentum that you can carry over into the next year. So there's a lot of reason for optimism all across the league right now.
I agree with that. I also wasn't really crazy about the Bruce Pearl quote about the SEC beating up on each other, and that's why that they had this type of run in the NCAA tournament, because like, it doesn't hold the SEC back in any other sport. All right. And we would laugh you out of the room if you said that in football. Okay. And I just think it's as simple as, like, the league has gotten better and the March success has not coincided. And it's a really hard tournament to win. It really, really is. But where do you kind of land with that? And what do you make of the way that it's played out? Not just this year, but now looking back and realizing, wow, like, it's been 8 years since an SEC team played in the national championship.
Yeah, I agree with you on Bruce Pearl's quote. Like, it wasn't great. I mean, the Big 12. Look at the Big 12. Like, they had like 8 teams make the field, and but that was a really tough league to win, and they sent more than one team to the Sweet 16. So, it just fell flat for me. I just didn't like it. The Big Ten every night is a battle. The ACC most years is a battle. It was a little weaker this year, but now the teams are showing, they got 3 teams into the Elite Eight, so, and 2 into the Final Four. So, that every league is tough. You just got to rise to the top, and, like you said, the success just hasn't been there from the SEC, just like it kind of hasn't from the Big Ten. 2000 was the last time the Big Ten won a title. It's just like a really hard title to win. You're right. and the ACC just seems to be better at it than everybody else. But that doesn't mean it can't change in a hurry.
Yeah, it's kind of weird that three power conferences now are working on a drought that's going to be a decade plus, with the Big Ten 2000, Pac-12, of course, 1997, that Arizona team. And it's always interesting to see the way that coaches will try and spin that, because Pearl's the same guy who's saying before the NCAA tournament, hey, if you're 9-9 in the SEC, that means you deserve a bid. And then after the tournament, he's like, well, we all beat up on each other, and that's why we didn't perform well. It's like, well, you can't really have both worlds in that. I do think that we overplay results in the NCAA tournament too much, but at the same time, we talked about this beforehand, and with Cal, not getting it done with this team was going to impact his legacy. It just was. And maybe history will look back on this and we'll say, you know what, it was just St. Peter's having a George Mason type run. And we'll look back like, you know what, Mike Krzyzewski lost to a 15 seed. Tom Izzo lost to a 15 seed. Like, it happens. It's just a one-off. This tournament yields that type of result every once in a while. And this isn't the sign of a bigger picture thing. But at the same time, with this team, and the timing of it is key, because you can be the coach who wins and goes to 4 Final Fours in a 5-year stretch. That's all well and good. But when you're 7 years removed from that Final Four, people are going to start asking questions. What's the tweak that Cal needs to make? Is it with the offensive spacing? Is it adding more shooters? Like, what's the thing that's going to be able to get this Kentucky team over the hump and kind of back on that track record that they were used to?
Yeah, it's adding more shooters. He's got to continue to embrace the three, and he's got to do it when it counts. He kind of got away from that in that St. Peter's game. They started tightening up offensively, and that's just not going to, like, you got to play loose. You got to the players have to know that if they miss a three, that they're not going to get benched right away, and that hasn't always been the case at Kentucky. So it's just you just got to embrace where the game is going, or else if that 7-year streak becomes 8 years, that's a long time in Lexington, and there's going to be some discussion, warranted or not, about whether the modern college basketball game has passed Cal by or not. But you're right. The great coaches do lose to 15 seeds. Izzo, Calipari. We've got Krzyzewski, Frank Haith. All the greats. To 15 seeds. I just had to get that joke in there.
Yeah. That's got to land, of course. Our social media manager, Alex, threw out a really interesting question, and it was top 5 SEC basketball programs moving forward, and it's a pretty clear top 5 now, especially with LSU dealing with the Will Wade fallout. So it looks pretty obvious, at least in this juncture, before Florida actually gets games with Todd Golden, all those different things. So we both agreed Arkansas number 1. Then you had Auburn at 2, Kentucky at 3, Bama at 4, Tennessee at 5, with, like you said, Florida rising into those rankings soon. The timing probably impacts that response, but explain your logic for Auburn at 2 and perhaps not being as high on Tennessee's future with only having them at 5.
The Tennessee thing is simple. I just think, if we're talking about like the next 5 years, is Rick Barnes still going to be coaching in 5 years? That's my question there. He's getting up there in age. How many more years does he want to do this? That's all the Tennessee thing is. I think he's a great coach. I think he's brought in a ton of talent to Tennessee. The results haven't been there in the tournament, but when you snap a streak since 1979 of winning the SEC tournament, you win the SEC tournament, that's a successful season. Like, don't get me wrong, that is a successful season at Tennessee, but yeah, the results haven't been there in March. But that's my only question about Tennessee, is just how long does Rick Barnes want to keep doing that? So I knocked the Vols down to 5. And Auburn, I'm just, Bruce Pearl gets talent. He's got another good player coming in this recruiting class. He's going to bring some guys in through the portal. I bet it'll be interesting to see if Walker Kessler sticks around. He's getting some late first round buzz. But so we'll see what happens with Auburn's draft decisions. If Alan Flanagan, if he comes back, he has a chance to really put this past year behind him, when he clearly wasn't at full strength. He was just grinding it out. So I'm higher on Auburn's future a little bit. Calipari only needs one good year to get the critics off of his back. And, I think that Kentucky's always going to have talent. It's a brand name. He's always going to be able to get talent in there. And Nate Oates, I just think is just going to, like I said earlier, he's going to learn from this past year. He's going to get guys in there that are a little more consistent, that fit his system a little bit better. And I think that the future is bright in Tuscaloosa too.
Who do you think is at their respective program the longest then? Musselman, Cal, or Pearl, keeping in mind, I picked those three. I figured that was fair because they're all kind of really similar in age. Muss is 57, Cal 63, Pearl 62.
I think Bruce Pearl will be around Auburn until he decides he doesn't want to coach anymore. So I think he's got like another 8 years left in him. Musselman is an interesting one. I think he could become a Arkansas lifer. Or I could see him like jumping back to the NBA. He's been an NBA head coach before. So, I don't know. We'll see if he continues to enjoy the transfer portal grind, the recruiting grind, or if the call to the pros comes again, because he's going to be a name on a lot of radars now for big time openings. And Arkansas is a big time job. Like, I'm not trying to shortchange that, but there's going to be a lot of blue bloods calling. There's going to be some potential NBA interest if he continues to put it up. So I'll say Bruce Pearl is at Auburn for the rest of his career, and that's my pick.
Yeah, nobody's going to make this comparison, but there are some Jim Harbaugh type vibes with the Musselman NBA conversation of being a guy who is now coached at both of those levels. And Harbaugh, like the intrigue of wanting to go back and of course the interview with the Vikings. And I'm not saying that Musselman is at this place at all. Arkansas fans not saying that. But if that situation were to present itself where Harbaugh kind of wanted to right the wrong of the San Francisco 49ers, the way that played out, and you'd be like, all right, well, that's what you're negotiating against. You're not worried about him leaving necessarily for another program. I think he would be, if he's in college, he's at Arkansas, but that's going to be the thing moving forward with Hunter Yurachek is, do I have to worry about this guy maybe scratching that itch again after the way that it fizzled out with Musselman in the NBA and the pro ranks? One question on new SEC coaches. Trend that has played out pretty clear, and Brandon Zimmerman did a great job of kind of outlining this, that 5 of the 6 coaches, new coaches in the SEC, do not have Power 5 experience. Only one who does is Mike White, of course, goes from Florida to Georgia. And we're seeing this interesting trend play out. And I'm curious if you think it's for this specific reason. How much do you think the transfer portal and trying to get these guys from mid-majors or smaller schools, and how much emphasis there is now on building roster talent that way has impacted this and has made these SEC programs say, you know what, we don't necessarily need to get the guy who's got the Power 5 experience. We don't care if you came from a really small school. If you play a style of offense that you can recruit to and you can go out and you can get those guys, then that's what makes the most sense for us. How much do you think that trend has kind of played out with this cycle?
I think that's huge. And also, with Golden too, like he's a gym in the analytics community, and I think that the basketball is going to go that way. Like, Golden's offense at San Francisco was an analytical dream. So I think he brings that to Florida. He brings, you see all the, like a Wendell Green, you see a Stanley Amude, you see these guys come over from mid-majors and have big impacts in big games, Kellen Grady at Kentucky. So
that's a swear right now. I wouldn't say that too loudly. Kellen Grady. That's, oh, yikes.
Yeah. But he, that's what you're trying to build. Like I looked into the numbers since 2015 when Duke won the title. The past 5 national championship winning teams have not had a freshman among their top 3 scorers. So it's freshmen are great, and Duke could break that cycle this year with Paolo obviously being up there and AJ Griffin being up there, but experience is so important in March Madness specifically, because Villanova, you see like Jay Wright gets his guys, they play together, and then like every 3 years they're in the Final Four. It's like clockwork. He gets his guys, and Kansas is a veteran laden team. Ochai Agbaji, David McCormick, they've been around. I think that's what Cal was missing this year, was kind of a key player who had been around. This was Sheboy's first year. This was Wheeler's first year. This was Grady's first year. And then Ty was so important, but he could, you can have a freshman like that if you have the support around him, kind of like Arkansas last year.
Yeah.
They had a good team, and then Moses Moody was the X factor. And you can build a team like that, and that's kind of what Duke has done with Wendell Moore being like a leader on that team, and Mark Williams and Jeremy Roach knowing a little bit about the system, and then you can plug Paolo and AJ Griffin and Trevor Keels into that. So yeah, I think you're right. Like that's the kind of stuff that mid majors have been doing for years now, to build that system, and then like every 4 years, like making a tournament run with a senior laden team, and so that's going to become a trend, I think, at the SEC with this current hiring cycle. You're right.
Final Four. Everyone's talking about UNC Duke. I get it. Be weird if they weren't. I wanted to check in with you and make sure you're still all right after what Kansas did to Miami in the second half of that game. It just felt like they were just trolling you with every single shot, every single and one. I know you love it when players yell out and one as it's going down. That's your favorite thing as well. Like that just felt like they were, and especially doing it in the state of Illinois. I mean, gosh, you probably watched that second half and just like we're sitting there biting a towel or something.
The dagger to my heart, Connor. It was a dagger to my heart. Yeah, I was so excited after that first half. I was like, all right, I picked Miami to make the Final Four in our re-pick of the 16,
re-pick.
and I was so excited. They were 20 minutes away, but what a disaster of a 20 minutes that was. Yeah, so I'm picking Kansas to win it all now. My previous picks have been Kentucky to win it all and Arizona to win it all. So with that in mind, I'm picking Kansas to win it all now.
Kansas Duke national championship is your personal hell, right?
Oh yeah, and that's of course that's what's going to happen. It's as destined as Coach K's final season has been.
Would that though kind of make it all right though to see Coach K come up short in national championship? I've tried to figure out if there is a good scenario for the way that this played out. Obviously, like everybody had the tweets before the Elite Eight matchup. We're all hogs. I get it. I'm trying to think if it would be more satisfying to watch him lose to UNC one more time, or if watching him lose to Kansas. Because if I lose to Kansas, then I win my bracket pool because I had Kansas winning it all originally, not in our repick bracket. But I don't know, man. Like you were there, you kind of saw the pageantry of it. Does it feel like Team of Destiny type vibes? If you were a betting man, like, and not just picking with your heart in mind, but if you were putting down money on this, and I don't know what the updated odds were, but I was blown away that it was only Duke plus 1,400 or something like that in the Sweet 16. But if you were a betting man, Duke would have to be the favorite, right?
Yeah, I mean, just Paolo Banchero is as cool as a cucumber. Like
filthy.
Nothing phases that guy. Mark Williams is a menace in the paint. Like he only blocked 3 shots against Arkansas, but he altered at least a dozen just because of his presence and his wingspan there in the lane. And just so like that's a great combo. Jeremy Roach has proven time and time again this tournament that you want the ball in his hands late in games. AJ Griffin. I really like this. I really like this Duke team. I hate that I'm saying that, but I really like this Duke team, and I just don't think anything is phasing them. And I think Coach K can sense that. I mean, he was just like beaming with pride during the press conference. He was like, "Look, like this team has grown up so much this tournament." And I know it's true, but I think that you saying Coach K losing to Kansas might make it all right. I think you underestimate my hatred of Kansas. I'd rather see Coach K cutting down the nets than Kansas cutting down the nets. So that's where I stand on that.
That's perfectly fair. Adam, great stuff. Coverage has been awesome. Really, really cool to see getting that opportunity in San Francisco. We'll probably talk. We'll have to talk some Mizzou stuff here. If we get JT Daniels to Mizzou, like potential emergency podcast, at least we would definitely have to break down some JT Daniels stuff. But appreciate it as always, and I'm sure we'll be talking hoops probably sooner than I expect.
Sounds good. All right. Thanks for having me on.